Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah shir. I'm recording this shir today in the midst of Pesach preparations and Pesach cleaning, so the shir might be a little bit abbreviated, but let's go and let's see what we can get done. We are holding in Mishnah Berurah Chelik Vav. We'll be learning today Mirz Hashem at least most of Daf Mem Daled Amud Beis. We're continuing to learn halachos Tainus. We begin today in Siman Taf Kuf Samaches in the midst of Sif Beis. On the top line of Mem Daled Amud Beis, in the words of the Ramah, almost near the end of the line, Yesh Oimrim. Says the Ramah, Yesh Oimrim, there are those that say, She Mitztar Harbe, that if somebody is finding it very, very difficult to fast, and he's in a lot of tsar from his fast, so She Mitztar Harbe B'Ta'anisai, if he's in great tsar from his tainus, Yachal Liftoisai B'Mamain, he can actually redeem his fast by giving tzedakah, and he doesn't have to continue his fast. And the Ramah says it doesn't have to be only that he's mitztar harbe, could be he has some other kind of oinus that precludes him from fasting. That would also allow him to be paid to his tainus b'mamain when that's allowable. Let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah is Katnachav Beis. First of all, what kind of tainus are we speaking about here? Well, we say that he could redeem his tainus with mammon. What kind of tainus? Says the Chavetz Chaim, is Katnachav Beis, Hainu b'tainus yachid. We're speaking specifically here about a private tainus, his own private tainus. Ava b'tainus shegeizer hatzibur. But if it's a tainus that the tzibur was geyser on the tzibur that they have to fast, loy mahani pidyon, then a redemption pidyon does not help. You can't remove a tainus tzibur by pidyon. So you can't remove shivas of a tamas with a pidyon. Or if the tzibur was geyser a tainus, let's say in a time of drought or a time of tsara, and there were geyser a tainus on the tzibur, you can't redeem that with tzedakah im lo shehisnu kain hatzibur, unless that was part of the original decree. You could redeem it. What lies behind this concept of redeeming a tainus with tzedakah? Says the Chavetz Chaim, Mishum de umden daita da daita da hachi kibel. We assume, we have an assumption, an umdana, that when he was makabel a tainus on himself, he was makabel a tainus with the understanding that the tainus would not be too difficult for him, or he wouldn't have some kind of other oines. But he wasn't makabel the tainus with the understanding that he should suffer so exceedingly, and therefore, if he is suffering to that extent, he could redeem it. And there's a sort of a precedent for this idea that you could be paid a tainus with money. The tainus nechshav l'tzedakah, because in a way a tainus is the equivalent of tzedakah. V'keven shenoisin demeichel by v'damai la'aniyim. If a person goes ahead and he redeems his fast by paying the value of the fast, demeichel by v'damai literally means the value of his fats and his blood that he's decreasing by fasting. If he gives that value, la'aniyim, yotza. Let's remember, we've quoted already before, the Gemara in Brachos that says, igra de tanisa tzedakah, that the main reward for a tainus is the tzedakah that's generated by the tainus. We said that there was a minhag that the night after the tainus, they would give tzedakah to the aniyim so that they had food to break their tainus. And the Gemara says that in many cases, that's the main schar for the tainus, because the tainus itself sometimes generate such schar. Somebody doesn't even realize he was busy all day working, whatever it is, so he fasted. Did it really spur him to tshuva and ma'asim tovim? Not necessarily. But if the tainus spurred the giving of tzedakah, so igrid the tanis of tzedakah. You could redeem the fast with money. The shir hapidyon, as far as how much money you have to give to redeem the tainus, says the Chavetz Chaim, ha'asher lefi ashrei. A wealthy person has to give commensurate with his wealth. Da'atam, because the rationale of this is mishum sheshakal tsar hamamoin neged tsar hatainus. The money that he's giving has to be the equivalent of the tsar, of the suffering of the tainus. And therefore we could understand every person has to give an amount of money that he's going to feel. A person who's not a person of means, if he gives $50, he feels the $50. A millionaire, if he gives $1,000, he doesn't feel it. If he gives $10,000, he might not feel it. He has to give an amount of money that he's going to feel. Continues the Ramah 3 lines from the top. V'nira, the Ramah says it appears to him that dafka bekibel alav tainus ba'alma. This concept of redeeming a tainus only applies by what we've called until now a tainus stam. If somebody accepted upon himself just a non-specified day of tainus, so then that kind of tainus he could go ahead and he could redeem with money. Avalim kibloi derech neder tzarech lekayim nidroi. But if somebody had a Kabbalah of a tainus where he accepted upon himself a specific day, or if he didn't have an original neder, all he had was that the day before the tainus, he said, Areini b'tainus lamachar. So we've learned already, I've repeated this idea many times, if all you have is Hareini b'tainus lamachar, then you don't have an original neder for that Kabbalah's tainus to refer back to. So then Hareini b'tainus lamachar, I'm going to have a fast day tomorrow, is accepting upon yourself a specific day of tainus, tomorrow. And a specified tainus day you can't redeem with money, says the Ramah. Says the Mishnah Berurah cut in chafei, bekibel of tainus ba'alma. The wording of the Mishnah Berurah is a little bit strange to me, but the Mishnah Berurah says like this: what the Ramah wants to say when he says that this halacha applies to a tainus ba'alma, what he means is v'layiched b'shas hakabbalah le'ezeh yoim. If he made an original neder, when he made that original neder, he didn't tie it to a specific day. He didn't say, I am going to fast on the 10th day of Nisan. Or he didn't say, I'm going to fast on next Monday. Then he specified a day. All he did was, he said, I'm going to fast one day. So it's non-specific. De b'yiched, if he named a specific day, I personally am wondering if there's a typo here in the Mishnah Berurah, and it should say Oy She'amar. I'm not sure. But the b'yiched, if he specified a day, She'amar oz hareini b'tainus lamachar. The way I'm understanding it is, if he made an original neder, and by the original neder he specified a day, or even if he didn't have an original neder, and just Sunday he made a Kabbalah's tainus for Monday, and he said hareini b'tainus lamachar. So then the Kabbalah's tainus, hareini b'tainus lamachar, doesn't have an original neder to refer back to. So then hareini b'tainus lamachar is considered a specific day. So the way I'm understanding, in either one of these cases, either he didn't have an original neder to refer back to that specified a day, or well, no, I guess it's one thing. Yeah, he didn't. He was mekabel tainus stam, which means v'layiched b'shas hakabbalah le'ezeh yoim. He doesn't have an original neder where he specified a day. The b'yiched, if he did specify a day, and the same thing would be true if he doesn't have an original neder at all. Sha'amar oz hareini b'tainus lamachar, he just has a Kabbalah's tainus without an original neder, and he says hareini b'tainus lamachar. In both of those cases, dinoi k'noider liyom zeh. Both of those make a specific day tainus. V'chanal b'sif beis, like we've seen previously. V'ayin b'bir halacha. But in that case, the Ramah says, you can't go ahead and redeem a specific day of tainus with money. A non-specific day tainus, the same way you could be loiva upareya, the same way if you have an unspecified day tainus, you could break your tainus if you encounter a bris milah. Under other circumstances, you don't have to fast, and you can make it up with a different day. So too, you could redeem it with money. But a specified day of tainus, you can't make up with another day. You can't be loiva upareya, and you also can't redeem it for money. Siv Gimel, says the Mechaber. Somebody accepted upon himself to fast a certain number of tanesim. Maybe he accepted on himself to fast 10 tanesim. Let's say it's July, and somebody was makabel on himself to fast 10 tanesim. Now we know that the fasts during the summer, Shiva Asar Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, those are very long tanesim. Shkia isn't in the New York area. Shkia is not until after 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:20 p.m. So the day is a very long day. That's a very long tainus. Asar B'Tevis, that takes place during the winter, by contrast, is a relatively short tainus. So says the Mechaber, if somebody was makabel on himself to fast, let's say 10 days of fast days, he doesn't have to do it during the long days of the summer. He could push them off to the short days of the winter. And says the Ramah, likewise, v'yachal lilvais yom arich. Let's say you started fasting one of the long summer days, and then you needed to break the fast, and you want to be loivu pereya. So you're going to break the fast that you started in July, and you want to pay it back by fasting a day in December. So in a way, you're getting off easy. You started the fast on a day where your tinus would have ended at 9 o'clock. Now you're going into your fasting a day where your tinus is going to be over at 5 o'clock. So you're getting off easy. Says the Ramah, that's okay, you could do that. It doesn't matter, it's still a full day. So it's a yom tinus. Says the Mishnah Berurah Chavav, Misha Nadar lehisanos, v'huadin Misha neschayiv lehisanos b'koyach hatshuva. It doesn't have to be just somebody who made a neder to fast. Maybe somebody did an avera, and there are certain chatoim. Somebody's machal Shabbos b'shoigeg, somebody's chas v'shalom has relations with Anida. So there are chatoim that are brought down where part of your tshuva process you're supposed to fast. Says the Mishnah Berurah, you could push off your voluntary fast to the short winter days. What the Mechaber wants to tell you is, even though you made your neder during July, so somebody might look and say, hey, you said this neder that you're going to fast 10 days during the long summer days. So maybe you have to fast 10 long summer days. Says the Mechaber, no. You could push them off to the short days of the winter. You didn't say that in your Kabbalah, and when you made your neder, you didn't say I'm making a neder to fast 10 summer days. You said I'm making a neder to fast 10 days. Even though you undertook the neder during the summer, but you didn't specify summer days, so you're not locked into summer days. You could postpone your tanesim till the short winter days. Ayin Magen Avram, Tahainu Dafka. This is a very interesting Magen Avram here. Ayin Magen Avram, that says that this whole idea that you're going to make a neder to fast, and then you're going to push off the kiyum of your neder, is very strange. We know Moitzes Vasecha Tishmar Va'asisa. You have a chiyuv, you have an obligation to fulfill the Kabbalah that you made. And we know that there's a very important inyan of zrizus. When a person has something that he has to fulfill for the Borei Olam, if a person has a mitzvah that he has to do, he's supposed to be a zariz. He's supposed to do it as soon as possible. So how are we saying over here that somebody undertakes a neder and then he just postpones the fulfillment of his neder? So the Magen Avram says, not so simple. Ayin Magen Avram, who says that this whole concept of postponing the fulfillment of your neder, Tahainu Dafka ben Nenas, that's only when you have some kind of oinus. Maybe you're not feeling well, so you can't be mekayim the fast days now. Sheina yochel kayim tekef, so you can't fulfill your neder now. Avo b'lav, but without some kind of oinus, eina rashay l'tchaysam. It's not proper to push off the fulfillment of your neder. Why? T'chashinon shema yamus. Nobody knows how long he's going to live. Nobody has any guarantee that he's going to live for another 5 minutes. So you don't have any kind of guarantee. Now what happens if the person passes away and now he's going to die without the kiyum of his neder? So the Magen Avram says we can't risk that. You undertake a neder to fast, you got to fast right away, unless you have some kind of oinus. Imloi shehuzman mu'at. Unless the Magen Avram says we're talking about a relatively short time, which the Maktas HaShekel defines as within 30 days. Within 30 days, you're not mechuyev to be chayshish shema yamus. You could push it off within 30 days without an oinus. But to push it off more than 30 days, says the Magen Avram, only if there's an oinus. V'chein pasek b'machan ha'afrayim hilchas dedarim simin tesvav detzarch l'kayim miyad. Achim ha'noider atzmai oimer. If the person who made the neder will say, sheba libay haya shaloi la'asaysa miyad. Person says, yes, it's true. I made a neder to fast. but I had in mind specifically when I made the neder that I'm not doing this anytime soon. The guy says, that's exactly what I had in mind when I undertook the neder. Pshita de neman mashe beinoy lebein kainai. The person is neman, he's trustworthy to say that this is what he had in his mind. This is something that's between him and his creator. It's between him and Borei Olam. He's trusted to say that when I had it in mind, when I made this Kabbalah, I had in mind that I'm not doing anytime soon. I think that the Chavetz Chaim uses this lashon that a person is trusted, mashe beinoy lebein kainai, because this wouldn't be true if it would be affecting somebody else some way. Let's say somebody made some kind of neder that affects somebody else, maybe he has to pay somebody money or what have you, then he's not nemon to say, oh, I had this in mind, oh, I had that in mind. But over here, it doesn't affect anybody else. It's between him and God. Okay. The Ramah said, the same way you could postpone a fast from the long summer days to the short winter days, you could also be loive u'peireya. If you took on an obligation to fast and you started fasting during the summer, and then let's say you encountered a bris milah, so now you want to eat by the bris milah, and you want to be loive u'peireya. You're going to take back this fast day, and you're going to pay it back with a different day. Even though you are loive a long summer day, you could pay that back with a short winter day. Says the Mishnah Berurah Kan Chavtes v'Yachal Lilvais Hainu b'Madi Isa le'el b'Sif Beis deloive u'pareya. This goes back to what we discussed in Sif Beis, the concept of being loive u'pareya and when that is permissible and when it's not permissible. Says the Mishnah, says the Mechaber Sif Daled. Yesh mi she'omer, there are those that say sheshnei yamim u'shnei leilos ritzufim. If somebody fasts 2 days and 2 nights consecutively, yesh lahashvoisam la'arba'im taniyoi she'enam ritzufim. That's the equivalent of fasting 40 non-consecutive days. So if somebody has an obligation to fast 40 non-consecutive days, he could pay up that obligation by fasting 2 days and 2 nights consecutively. Says the Mishnah Berurah, no Mishnah Berurah yet. Haggadah, the Ramah says, the Yeshayimrim, and there are those that say, the ba'adam chalosh, this is true by a relatively weak person, sagi loy b'shnei yamim ritzufim. For such a person, 2 consecutive days is enough. Aval adam bari, but a healthy person would need shloisha yamim, would need 3 days. Okay, let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Mishnah Berurah is cut limud. Excuse me just 1 second. I'm in the middle of saying shir. Says the Mishnah Berurah is cut limud. Shloisha yamim. The noihagim lehis anois oid shnei shois b'leil revi. Now this is Kabbalistic in Yonim over here. The Chavetz Chaim says that if somebody's going to fast 3 days, then the night after the 3rd day, he should continue his fast for another 2 hours, sheyiyeh shivim va'arba shois, so that you have a total of 74 hours. 3 days is 24 times 3 is 72, and then another 2 hours, motzei tainis, that makes 74 hours. What's the mile of 74 hours? Siman ledavar, this is a remez to Shuva Yisrael ad Hashem Elokecha. We have the pasuk that we lay on Shabbos Shuva. Shuva Yisrael, or the Klal Yisrael should do Shuva ad, until up to Hashem Elokecha, to come back to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And the word ad is gematria 74, so there's an Indian of fasting 74 hours. However, if you don't extend the tainus for those 2 hours, if you eat right away b'tchilas halayla at the end of the tainus, that's okay also. Shehu kiminyan chesed, because 72 hours is the gematria of chesed. V'hamisanim shnei yomim ritzufim, if somebody does fast 2 consecutive days, toiv sheyisanu sha'achas balayla sha'achar tanisim, he should fast 1 hour after the tanisim, v'yafsiku gamkein sha'achas miba'od yom, and he should add on 1 hour before the beginning of the fasts. Dahainu koydem aschalas tanisim. So he has 2 days is the 48 hours, and he's adding on an hour at the beginning and an hour at the end. Why? The ozge chashev k'may esrim v'sheva tanisim, because that would be considered 27 tanesim. How did 2 days and an extra 2 hours become 27 tanesim? The Yom Rishon have a tainus echad. The first day is a regular fast day. So that's the value of one tainus. Va'achakach, but now every additional hour that you fast after you were already fasted a 24-hour period, now that's a much harder tainus. You can't equate the second day tainus to the first day tainus. The first day tainus is a relatively simple fast day. It's one day. But now you're continuing your fast for another day. Every hour is considered another fast day. So then you have the first 24 hours is one fast day. The next 24 hours is 24 fasts. So far you're up to 25. Now you extended your fast 1 hour early in the beginning. That's 26. And you extended your fast 1 extra hour at the end. That's 27. So you have 27 tanesim. Okay, now we continue with the Ramah in Sif Daled. Venerally, the Ramah says it appears to him when is this true that we can say that 2 consecutive days and nights, or maybe 3, equals 40 days? That's by somebody who has a chiyuv to fast 40 non-consecutive days. And he's doing it for tshuva purposes. So now we could say 2 consecutive days and nights, or 3 consecutive days and nights, that could equal the amount of tsar that you would get from 40 non-consecutive days. But if somebody made a tainus to fast 40 consecutive days, and he's going to eat at night, he's going to eat the intervening nights, but he's going to fast 40 consecutive days, he's got to fulfill that neder. Because that's already similar to somebody who made a neder to fast a specific day when we said you can't be loiva upereya. So too over here, when somebody said he's going to fast 40 consecutive days, you can't make that up by 2 consecutive days and nights or 3 consecutive days and nights and say that that's equal to that. Even according to those that say you could be loiva upereya even by a specific day tainus, over here there would be moida that somebody who made a neder to fast 40 days consecutively has to fulfill the neder. Certainly if it was for the 40 days before Yom Kippur, when there's a minute to fast, when there's an evening to fast, because those are the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai and went up to Shemayim to gain kapara for Klal Yisrael after the Chet HaEgel. If somebody accepted to fast those 40 days, he cannot pay off, he can't switch out those 40 days for a fast of 2 consecutive days and nights or 3 consecutive days and nights. You are makabel to fast these 40 specific days. You can't make it up with that. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Katan Lamed Aleph, Mikayach HaTshuva. If somebody is fasting for tshuva purposes, Hainu Mikayach Tikunei Tshuva Amavur B'Sfarim. This is talking about what we find brought down in the Sfarim, that if somebody's Machal Shabbos B'Shegig, he fasts. If somebody's Bayal Anida, he has to fast. It would be better that he should fast 40 individual days spread out. Because somebody who fasts 2 consecutive days at nights, so he's shari b'tainus for a very short amount of time. But if somebody does 40 tanesim spread out across the year, his hergeshim of tshuva and charata over his chet will be spread out over a much longer period. They bring down from the Gra and from other Gedolim that this is not the Eitzah for tshuva nowadays, not tanesim and sigufim, paining yourself with different sorts of physical pains. The best way for tshuva nowadays is the Gra says is shtika, work on being quiet, be careful of what you say, be careful what comes out of your mouth. Try not to talk. People talk so much. 90% of the time there's no purpose in saying anything. Just don't talk. And also, of course, to be mezariz yourself in limud Torah and gemilas chasadim. That's the best thing for tshuva. The best thing for tshuva is learn Torah, and do gemilas chasadim. If somebody took on a neder that he's going to fast 40 consecutive days, he'll eat by the nights, he has to be Mekayim his neder. Maybe let's say somebody took on a neder to fast 2 consecutive days, can he swap that out with 40 non-consecutive days? Ayin Sham. The Mechaber said even those who say that you could be loiva upereya when in the case of a specific day tainus, they would agree that you cannot be loiva upereya by somebody who undertook a 40-day consecutive tainus. He can't swap it out with a 2 or 3 day consecutive tainus. The reason why we allow somebody to be loiva upereya, according to the shittas that say you could be loiva upereya even by a specific day tainus. So somebody said, I'm going to fast next Monday. Now he starts to fast and it's too hard for him. So we said it's very hard to be loiva upereya on a specific day tainus. But there are those that say that you could be. But why? Because the person wasn't makabel the tainus al das that he's going to be mitzvah. And now he's being mitzvah. So we let him be loiva upereya. Masha'enken hacha the seif yitztar. But over here, what do you want to do? You want to let somebody was makabel on himself a 40-day tainus. And you want to let him swap it out with a 2 consecutive day tainus. Either way, he's being mitzvah. So what excuse does he have to swap it out? For sure, the Ramah said if somebody was makabel on himself to fast the 40 days before Yom Kippur. So the Chavetz Chaim points out that when somebody says he's going to fast the 40 days before Yom Kippur, it doesn't really mean the 40 days before Yom Kippur. Because you cannot fast for all the 40 days before Yom Kippur, because you have Shabbos, you have Rosh Chodesh, you have Rosh Hashanah, you have Erev Yom Kippur. So there are a lot of days over there you can't fast. And therefore says the Chavetz Chaim, the Yaschel lehisanais acher chamisha asa ba'av, this person would actually have to start fasting on the 16th day of Av to make up the 40 days. V'lo yisana b'Shabbos for Rosh Chodesh, and he won't v'ast on Shabbos and Rosh Chodesh. Those extra days that he's going to fast in order to equal 40, ain't sarach lahashlim. He doesn't have to fast all the way up to Tzeisak Echavim. When does he have to fast in told? Chavetz Chaim doesn't say. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's Mincha Gedola or it's Shkia. I'm not sure. Somebody who's fasting these fasts does not need a Kabbalah's tainus before each day. He can make one Kabbalah's tainus all the way at the beginning of the 40 days. The day before the first day by Mincha, he can make one Kabbalah's tainus. Somebody who accepted the fast these tanesim, even if he didn't make a specified neder, even if he just made a Kabbalah's tainus. So, like we've learned many times already, a Kabbalah's tainus, that hareini b'tainus for the next 40 days, if it doesn't have an original neder to refer back to, so then it's considered specific day tanesim. If they're specific day tanesim, you can't be paid to them, you can't be loiva upereya, you have to keep those days. Okay, we're going to break over here with Sif Hey. Thank you so much for joining me for Limud HaTorah. Discuss of Limud HaTorah should be making against Klal Yisrael. Special wish of Refuah Shalema for Shlomo Zalman ben Mesha, Menachem Ari ben Dina Yehudis, and Yisrael Tzvi ben Rechama Roiza Edel. They should all have a Refuah Shalema b'Sai Shachel Yisrael. Rabbi Shem should send Yeshua and Refuah and Parnasa to all those in need. I hope everybody's preparations are going nice and smoothly. Don't wear yourself out to the extent that you come into Yom Tov exhausted. Be well.